Alamo City, boombox and all. Superman coming off of one of his best games of the season, ready to rock. There is Tobias Harris, personal branded face mask and all. Tobias, a strong performance, capped the homestand a couple nights ago. Recently minted, signed, once again for a third time in about 2.5, 3 weeks. This time it is official for the rest of the season. We'll hear from him later on in tonight's show. Anthony Toliver and the 76ers opening up a 3-game road trip tonight in San Antonio, Texas. And welcome into a Sunday evening edition of 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. I'm Brian Seltzer. Hello to you, Lauren Rosen. We welcome in fans watching and streaming of the back into first place Philadelphia 76ers.
Yes, indeed. If you're like me, you just watched that Bucks-Nets matchup, which was very exciting. Thanks, of course, to the Bucks for that little solid. They did the 76ers. The Sixers getting ready to take on a 3-game road trip, Celts, that could lead to 3 more victories and help them hold on to that top spot.
You would certainly think, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, that the Sixers are positioned for success tonight. The Sixers fully healthy going into tonight's game. That's what Doc Rivers said moments ago. No one on the injury report for the Sixers. Meanwhile, for the Spurs, which are clinging to the 10th spot in the Western Conference, that, of course, gets you into the play-in tournament. They're without DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl, and DeJounte Murray tonight. Those are 3 members of the Spurs starting lineup, a group that no longer features LaMarcus Aldridge, who's, of course, traded to Brooklyn first. Then he retired from the NBA. So the 76ers tonight on the front end of a back-to-back, looking to start things on a good note.
Yes, indeed. It should be a pretty easy one, but you never know. As we've heard from all of our 76ers over the last 3 games, which they won by a 97-point margin, the largest cumulative 3-game margin in franchise history. It's hard to win in the NBA. No matter what team is running out there, they need to give their best effort. Those are their words, not mine. So good to hear that they're going to keep treating all opponents, regardless of who's available or who is not, with some sincerity, with some gravity. Tonight will be no different.
76ers rolled past the Atlanta Hawks once again on Friday night, 126-104. That was great news, and just been nice to see, Lauren, the 76ers obviously make up ground over the last couple days after going into last week. I mean, this time last week, mood around the team was, what's the right word? I don't want to say, maybe tired. Maybe tired, maybe a little bit spent. On the road, had to go to Milwaukee playing against a good team. They were shorthanded and have Ben Simmons. Ben comes back on Monday, and the 76ers are off and running. Listen, they got 3 very favorable games, 2 favorable opponents, quite frankly, in those games, certainly with Oklahoma City to get them jump-started. And they took the game seriously, and they have 3 wins to show for it.
Yeah, Celts. I mean, it's hard this season. I know we talk about it a lot. This week is going to be no different. Such a condensed and congested schedule. So to have to face that type of week that the team had a couple weeks ago, severely shorthanded, it's tough when you're fully loaded. So it was good to see them bounce back in a big way in that 3-game homestand, now headed out on that 3-game trip. And hopefully they can continue to control their own fate as the season winds down.
Tonight's starting a stretch in which the 76ers play 5 games in 7 days. Come on. That is crazy. And if that weren't nuts enough, the Sixers play, let's get our cartography kit out and our map and draw the lines on the map. The Sixers are in San Antonio tonight. They go up to Chicago for a game at United Center tomorrow, and then they're going back to the town that Lauren Rosen built, H-Town, in Houston, for a game later on this week, Wednesday. That's not easy.
I don't know if we can say the town that Lauren Rosen built, but it is, of course, my hometown. Bummed not to be there with the group, but I will be watching intently, and I will, of course, be rooting for the 76ers on Wednesday. But yeah, not one of the most logical road trips. It feels like, Souths, there's 1 or 2 of them every year. This must be the most illogical of all for the Sixers to have to play in Texas, shoot up to Lake Michigan, and then turn right back around back to my home state. Doesn't make a ton of sense. But this team is used to it at this point. If there's any silver lining here, it's crazy travel, crazy schedule, and the Sixers have made the most of it.
Biggest thing, this team is healthy right now and clicking, coming off of 3 straight wins, longest winning streak in the Eastern Conference for the Sixers. And before we move on and talk a little bit about tonight's matchup, I think that based on what happened earlier today between the Bucks and the Nets, tight, narrow win for Milwaukee. Giannis went for a season high 49 points. Just looking at how things are shaping up potentially between the collision course that the 3 top teams in the Eastern Conference could be on a few weeks from now, I can't wait. We know Brooklyn obviously has not had the benefit of playing the big 3 that they've got together consistently, but the talent is there to override all of that and scare the you know what out of you. And then Milwaukee, in terms of its past week, 2 wins over the Sixers, albeit the Sixers were shorthanded without Ben Simmons in those games. And then you knock off the Nets. So listen, Milwaukee could be 3.5 games out of first. They might not be able to catch either the Nets or the Sixers. But if I'm Milwaukee, I'm feeling real good about myself.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be at the top of the Eastern Conference. It's an exciting time to be in the NBA. When you look at the teams that are going to compete for that play-in tournament that Celts, you and I have talked a lot about on our last couple of podcasts. If you're not subscribed to the Sixers Podcast Network, please do so. But it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be unlike any season that we have seen before, and I am really looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. And of course, looking forward to, if the Sixers continue on the path that they're on, getting a solid chunk of days off during that play-in tournament.
Without question, that is going to be so beneficial, possibly getting, I would just guess right now, 3 practice days in because their final game is the Sunday before the following weekend when the playoffs begin. So that could really be a big boost for the 76ers. Big boost for this team last week, the return of Ben Simmons, the All-Star, and he played tremendous for the Sixers. Great game against the Hawks in round 2 against Atlanta in that 2-game series on Friday. I would say everyone would probably agree that was his best game since returning last Monday. But for the week, he just put up great numbers, all around solid stats, helping the 76ers in all different types of areas.
Yeah, he was doing it on both ends. Doc Rivers talks a lot about how significant Ben is. The difference between having Ben and not having Ben is a stark one. And we certainly saw that in his return to the court earlier this week. He was just so dominant in each of his performances, never had to play more than 27 minutes, which is great when you're looking at the minutes and the heavy amount of minutes he's going to have to play rather in the playoffs. Really exciting to see Ben do as well as he did and be as efficient as he was in those minutes.
And love seeing also, Lauren, that at this stage of the game we're seeing right now, 76ers, certainly I forgot about it by the time the game was done, how deep of a hole they were in with Atlanta going on a 13 nothing run at the outset of the first quarter. And just the demeanor that Ben played with to spark the 76ers at this juncture of the game late in the first, getting them back into things, giving the team enough to allow the bench to take over and really change the feel of the game. Ben, determined, aggressive, all that good stuff. Defensively, certainly doing his thing. Just a great performance by Ben Simmons, who's since his return averaging around 12 and a half points per game, and he's only missed 5 of his 23 shots.
I liked that one, Celts. I liked Ben's teammates getting Ben involved, which can't happen without Ben getting his teammates involved first. It's been really cool to see all of these units sort of get to know each other better, develop chemistry, and Ben is just a very important, if not the most important part of developing that on-court chemistry for this first unit and the first few guys that come in from the rotation.
I think, Lauren, it was a fair question for someone to ask Ben Simmons after the game on Friday if his layoff, missing 4 games, did something for him physically. He certainly seems to be rejuvenated. I thought it was intriguing to hear him say that mentally, more than anything, was where his time on the sidelines, not being able to play, helped him the most because this is the Ben Simmons, just the way he's playing, how determined he is right now. This looks a lot more like the Ben Simmons we saw through the first 2.5, 3 months of the season. And it's not even a matter of Ben. I'm not even looking at the numbers here because last game, that was, as you see at the bottom of the screen, that's a representative, typical Ben Simmons line that we've come to expect. But the first 2 games back for Ben, tremendous jam right there. The first 2 games back for Ben, he had modest statistics, but if you watch those games and you follow them, there was no doubt about the type of impact and effect that Ben had in all phases and facets of those games. And that to me has been the recurring theme for Simmons in these first 3 games back. Let's roll some tape and let's go, Lauren, to a soundbite from Doc Rivers talking about the importance of Ben Simmons these last 3 games for the Sixers.
Yeah, Ben's been since he's been back, he's been a tone setter for us. He's been absolutely amazing. Not only just with his defense, but his offensive drives, his offensive vision. I don't know if this is the best he's played all year, but this is close. I mean, he's driving our team right now. And a lot of it doesn't show. I mean, he had a play in the third quarter that he just put so much pressure on their defense, and the ball went around the horn. He gets nothing out of that except for that play led to us getting a three-pointer. And that's what he keeps doing.
And that returns us, Lauren, to what people talk about when they speak about Ben Simmons and when he's at his maximum effectiveness. If he is putting pressure on both ends with his force, physicality, athleticism, he's pretty much an unstoppable weapon.
He's hard to stop, and he's good at stopping others, doing it on both ends of the floor on a regular basis. We haven't even talked about the fact that he could be this season's Defensive Player of the Year. Great to have Ben Simmons back this week.
Simmons with some thoughts about how he's been doing.
I'm just trying to make plays, and I think one thing I notice when I'm out, I create a lot of shots for my guys, and I don't know where I'm going to get the guy to shot. I don't know when. I'm just trying to make guys move on the defensive side to get my guys open and be creative, which is something that it's hard to teach. I think just the way I move and play, I'm shifting and moving, I'm looking one way and passing the other. It's hard to guard that at times. So I'm just putting pressure on the defense.
Without question, Ben Simmons is doing just that. And yes, there is an innate ability that Ben Simmons has in various facets of the game that have been on full display the last week.
Yeah, he's getting it done all over the place. We can't say it enough how significant he is to this team. He said it. He gets his guys shots. He did just that in all 3 games. And then he did a pretty good job of making sure that the other team didn't get their shots in all 3 games.
I'm going to say this too. I like hearing Ben, to me at least, it seems like he's doing this more, standing up for himself. To me, it's kind of silly that he has to, but he's always going to have holes poked in his game, and people ask about this, that, or the other thing. And I like hearing him stand up for himself and say, you know what? This is how I look at things. And this is why I feel like I'm an important part of this team. And I can do things that few, if any other players in this league can do at this size, at this position. I like it.
Well, that confidence is huge for any player, especially a young player. We don't talk enough about how young Ben remains. But of course, when in any job, if people have criticisms for what you're doing, it's hard to hear. So to hear Ben come back and say, you know what? No, this is what I provide, and I provide it at a high level on every opportunity that I am given. It's really heartening to hear. It's great for his confidence. And if you're a Sixers fan, you should be really happy with the way that Ben Simmons has played since he's returned and before he left as well.
Another big takeaway from the 76ers 3 game homestand, all wins from last week, at least in my opinion, Lauren. The bench has been awesome. Love the bench throughout this season. I think a lot of people thought at the outset of this year this could be a really good crop of reserves that you could see just about all the main guys fitting into very defined specific roles. Nothing's changed in terms of that dynamic with the addition of George Hill, who's looking better and better. But 60 points in each of the last 2 games against Atlanta from this bench, amazing. And they, I thought, really changed the game around in quarter number 2 on Friday night.
No doubt about it. We've seen great stuff from members of the bench all season long. Due to injury and availability, it's been hard to get a cohesive, consistent bench unit out there. All 5 bench guys playing together for multiple games. Well, they got exactly that this week, particularly that unit of Dwight Howard and the smaller guys. I don't know if Doc has been calling them wings, guards, but be that as it may, it's Dwight Howard plus Furkan Korkmaz, George Hill, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle. That's the 5 that Doc has really praised all week long about their ability to just get it done on both ends of the floor. A few really strong defenders like Matisse Thybulle right there. And then the offensive game, the pick and roll game between Shake Milton and Dwight Howard. They've really started to figure it out as a group. And George Hill's addition, Celts, I think has been absolutely huge to them being able to figure it out. I liked that from Mark Zumoff. You can't stop him. You can't even hope to contain him. I think Dwight Howard has looked like his old self. I asked him about it. He said he feels 35, but then he laughed and said that he's been working really hard on his body. He's been working really hard on his game, and it certainly showed, particularly in Friday's matchup. He finished through traffic extremely well. He got fouled and still managed to make the shots go in a few times, and it's cool to hear that that's the stuff he's been working on, finishing through traffic and still getting it done. He certainly has done that over the last few games.
He just is doing things at this stage of his career which are hard to fathom and comprehend as far as how well he's been doing them. 19 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks in not even 17 and a half minutes for Dwight in the game on Friday. Fantastic. And we saw some highlights involving Matisse Thybulle, like him providing some initial defense there, and Dwight Howard coming over with the big paw for the help and the rejection. You know, Matisse makes watching defense as exciting as some guys do watching offense. And you can look down the list and you can see guys fitting into, as we said, specific defined roles. Matisse, 10 points, 5 assists, 4 steals in the game on Friday. Terrific. Shake Milton with 13 points. Furkan Korkmaz with 3 3-pointers. Yeah, there are weapons the 76ers have on the bench, bringing more of a full, complete feel to this roster. And Dwight Howard talked about the state of the team after the game on Friday.
I think that's this is an amazing time for us to, make sure that we remain healthy. I think guys are coming back from injuries and stuff like that and getting in better shape. So I think it's perfect. We want to make sure we hit our stride going right into the playoffs, and it seems like so far we've been able to do that. We just got to continue to stay locked in and stay focused on our mission. If we do that, at the end of the year, me, you, Lauren, and all of us, we'll have to have our mask on. We can go celebrate in the parade. So I think we just got to continue that trend.
You already got the invite. Book your ticket. Parade. If it happens, Lauren's on it.
Dwight is the absolute best. I love his enthusiasm, and I share in his hope that we can enjoy a parade together later on this year.
Yes, amen to that. 76ers have been fine-tuning and refining their roster over the course of this season. They haven't done much substantially since the season began. They've filled in some key areas of need around the margins surrounding the trade deadline, obviously bringing in George Hill, and then in the buyout market, inking Anthony Toliver to a pair of 10-day contracts. They signed him to a deal for the rest of the season earlier today, Lauren, which is great to see for a steady veteran who's been around. And again, he provides the 76ers with depth at a stretch position that they need.
Yeah, it was interesting. Doc Rivers said that Anthony Toliver has done a really good job with that low minute group, the group that isn't playing heavy minutes on a nightly basis. Toliver has come in to be a leader for guys like Tyrese Maxey, Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed, Mason Jones. That's the group that he's really bonded with. And those are all really, really young guys. So to have somebody like Anthony Toliver available, Doc Rivers says he's telling war stories. He has those guys huddled around him in the locker room, just trying to soak up everything that they can from Anthony Toliver. Anyway, I got to catch up with him this morning and congratulate him on the new contract. Hey, Anthony, first of all, big congratulations. We heard today that you've officially signed with the team for the rest of the season. What was your reaction to signing that contract, and what are you looking forward to?
I'm really excited to, be with the guys. Obviously I've only been here, a few weeks, but, really come to, have great relationships with a lot of guys on this team, and, looking forward to, making this run.
Thinking about that run that you guys are about to go on, what do you think the ceiling is for this team?
There is no ceiling, honestly. Whenever you have arguably the best player in the world at the moment and a lot of people around him that are, really good basketball players. I mean, it's anything's possible. So, I think that as long as we stay healthy, we can compete with anybody.
Anthony, congrats again, and thanks so much. One more nugget, if I may, on that low minute group. Anthony said that he really sees himself in those young guys, and that's why he enjoys being able to guide them. He said in his media that the players 9 through perhaps 14 in a rotation are the guys that have the hardest job in the league, at least in his opinion. And he feels that that's who he's been his entire career. He's had to stay ready, not knowing whether he would see minutes on any given night, not knowing whether he would see heavy minutes on any given night. And he wants to make sure that he can prepare those young guys to be able to step into whatever role they are given down this stretch with the Sixers, but later on in their careers. And it was just great to hear him talk about those guys with such affection, even after only spending a couple weeks together.
Good vibes surrounding this team continue to permeate, whether you're a guy who's been here from the start of the season or someone who was added within the last month and a half. So the 76ers building on their success going into the start of this road trip tonight against Lauren, a San Antonio Spurs team that has been up and down throughout the season. They're 500 right now at 31-31. Obviously, they have 10 games to go. They are 3 games in front of the New Orleans Pelicans for the second and final play-in spot. 10th place in the Western Conference right now. So, I mean, look at that, 10 games to go in front by 3. That's a pretty good cushion. May not sound like it, but that's hard ground for the Pelicans to make up. But for the Spurs tonight, as we said at the start, the 76ers, they're going to have everyone available tonight. But the Spurs, no DeMar DeRozan, averaging around 21.5 points per game. No DeJounte Murray, who's another bouncy threat out of the backcourt. And no Jakob Poeltl, who's one of their top big men.
It's going to be a tough challenge for the Spurs tonight, and a challenge ahead as they look towards that play-in tournament. This Spurs team, of course, one with an illustrious history under Greg Popovich. Watching them play, there are some exciting opportunities for this team, especially DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if we have the highlights. We have highlights from the Sixers. I watched this team, though, play the Celtics the other night when Jason Tatum had 60. It was cool to see DeMar DeRozan have 30. He's obviously a tremendously talented player. In this last one, though, I believe it was all Sixers, Celts.
Indeed. 76ers in total control. I like, dear Lauren, that you're doing some advanced scout work of upcoming opponents for the 76ers. That's heartening.
I told you, I've been trying. That's why I had to watch our number 2 and number 3 seed Nets and Bucks earlier today. I think more than anything, though, this just points to the fact that I have no life outside of my job, and I'm okay with that.
Well, listen, we are only benefiting, all of us here, Sixers Nation, benefiting from the tireless work of one Lauren Rosen. Yeah, the Sixers win over San Antonio a few weeks back was the largest margin, well, I should say largest margin of defeat for San Antonio in franchise history at that point in time. So just goes to show, A, how good San Antonio has been over the years to not even creep into that territory, but also how convincingly the 76ers did put San Antonio away in that game. So I think I'm feeling it, starting to tingle in the wrist, and I still haven't well, next time I'm going to try to remember to put the watch on backwards so we can see the face correctly. My Tissot Chrono XL NBA Special Edition is telling me it is time, Lauren, for the keys of the game. What is your PR1? Is that correct? Telling you?
PR100, Celts. It also
yes.
says that it's time for our keys to the game. That's the thing about
Lauren,
those Tissot watches. They are all in sync with one another.
Yes, indeed. Why don't, Lauren, you get us going?
Happy to, Celts. Well, my key apparently is the same key I had on Friday. I said keep taking care. The Sixers have been focused on making sure they limit their turnovers throughout this season. They've done just that over these last 2 games with Atlanta, 8 and 9 turnovers in each of those. That is a very low number. If they can continue to do stuff like that against these lesser opponents, it'll help build the good habits for the more formidable opponents they're going to see down the road. Keep taking care. Everybody available. Spurs, not so much. If you take good care of the ball, do what you know how to do, should be in a good position tonight.
Yeah, no need to potentially risk a more challenging night than necessary by shooting yourself in the foot. I like that. Take care. It applies again.
Thank you.
Okay, my key to tonight's game, this is before I knew what the injury report and status report was for the Spurs. I said, get after on the glass. The Spurs, second to last in the NBA in rebounding. 76ers, provided everyone plays, should own the backboards. But honestly, I think tonight what I loved about the three-game homestand was how physically the 76ers played against both opponents. And I would love to see that trend theme continue going forward until July 22nd, if necessary. I like it when the 76ers are the instigators, the aggressors. Keep that part of the identity and keep it going. And those are Tissot keys to the game.
They've said they want to be dominant and aggressive on both ends of the floor. We have seen it certainly this week. I like your key a lot, Seltz, and I agree. If I had maybe a chance to offer a third key, I also am really looking forward to seeing that second unit continues to evolve together. Doc Rivers has talked a lot about the fact that they are four traditional guards and Dwight Howard. So seeing Matisse Thybulle match up with some big guys over the next few games as he gets ready to perhaps do so in the playoffs should be interesting. It's been cool to see them play heavier minutes because of the deficits that the Sixers have built up. Hopefully they'll have more opportunities to do so on this 3-game trip.
Well put, Lauren Rosen. Well produced, Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney. That'll do it tonight. We're back at it tomorrow. 76ers and the Chicago Bulls from United Center. 76ers opening up a 3-game roadie tonight at San Antonio. Thanks for streaming along with us. Enjoy the game. We will speak again mañana.